Hi guys, I'm Tony the vet, and today I will be talking to you about renal disease in cats. Now, cats are one of our most loved companions, and we're all very lucky to have them living with us. But one of the things that seems to afflict all of them as they get older is kidney disease. Now, kidney disease is often something that kind of scares people, and they think it's a bad thing, but usually in most cases kidney disease occurs later in life when the cat's quite old, and it's a sign of a life well lived, in my opinion, because they're usually teenagers and they're getting on a little bit. But kidney disease will affect them at some stage in their life if they do live long enough. It can happen when they're a bit younger as well, but normally it does occur when they're quite old. And one of the reasons for this is because cats are what we call obligate carnivores, so they will preferentially just eat meat. I often think of them as tiny lions. So if you think of a lion that you might be watching on TV and you watch the documentaries, they're often chasing their prey and they're eating all of their prey. They're eating skin and flesh and bone and all the organs. So that's what cats eat, and our little domestic cats are exactly the same. So they will eat meat and all the various forms of it. So the commercial food is meat-based usually. There are other things in it, but usually because they're eating meat all their life, it's going to have a lot of nitrogen in it, which their kidneys have to process, and all the breakdown products from all that nitrogenous waste is going to over time affect their kidneys and make their kidneys become a little bit frail and aged as they get older. So what often happens is they lose protein through their renal system and their kidneys don't function quite as they used to. Some of the signs you might see as your cat gets quite old into its teenage years, if the kidneys are going, are a little bit of weight loss. They'll drink a bit more and they might wee a little bit more. Your vet can check how the kidneys are doing with a blood sample just to see if the renal system is functioning well. Also, another thing you can do is do a urine sample. Get a urine sample, take it to the vet, and the vet will run a little test just to see how the kidneys are concentrating the urine and if there's anything being passed out in the urine that's going to affect the urinary health. Cats will often produce little crystals in their wee, which can often irritate their bladder and give them secondary cystitis if they have bladder irritation. So with the female cat, it's not such a big problem. They'll often just pass the crystals out. But sometimes with male cats, these little crystals that form from the breakdown of their food, sometimes will get stuck in their urinary system and they can get what we call blocked. If they get blocked, that's quite an emergency and your cat will be quite painful and in a bit of distress. This happens to usually younger male cats. So that can then affect the kidneys, which will also cause them to be quite ill and sick and they won't move much. So if you do see a young male cat that's having trouble weeing or going to the litter box and trying to wee and can't produce enough wee, the chances are that there might be a little stone stuck in the urinary system. Female cats, as I say, if they do have any sediment in their bladder, they often pass it out. Now, as your cat is going to be getting on in time, and there are certain things you can do to help with their kidneys. Good quality food is a very good thing to consider buying if you can. Now, the reason to do that is it'll put less of the poor quality protein through their body, which means that there'll be less nitrogen breakdown products that they're going to have to detoxify and get out through their renal system. So it's a good idea if you can to get a good quality renal food. You can also get senior or geriatric food as your cat gets older. So as they go along in life, you can change the food that you're feeding to make sure that they've got the best chance of getting to old age in as good a shape as they can be. At some stage though, if your cat does end up with what they would call end-stage kidney disease, they'll get very weak, quite listless, and they probably won't be having the best quality of life. And if that does happen, you'll probably have a teenage cat, or maybe even in their early 20s. They'll be quite weak and they won't be as they were when they were young, and you'll see the changes, the weight loss. They'll probably have a little bit of a stilted gait where they'll be wobbly and they won't look quite so well. So you're probably at that stage going to have to consider going to your vet, and then they can do all the tests to just confirm if the kidneys are functioning well or not. But as I say, it's nothing to be concerned about insofar as your cat is a carnivore and it does need to eat that food source. So as I say, usually it's going to be a case that they get to old age and the kidneys will start to change. But it's usually a sign of a life well lived and they've had a good time getting through life. So don't worry too much. It's almost inevitable that cats will get this condition. But again, if you're anyway concerned, please visit your vet and they'll talk you through everything and do all the tests needed. Okay, I hope that's been helpful for you guys. This is Tony the vet, and I'll see you soon.